And hi guys, and welcome to Get Your Reviews, and to this review and spoiler discussion of Godblight, the latest 40k novel from, well, Dark Library. And YouTube tells me that I'm streaming. That's amazing. Thank you. It's not 30 minutes late this time. So guys, I managed, thanks to Dear Kaiton, to get the book and go through it, the audio version. And we're going to discuss a lot of spoilery things, and those things are, what matters to me. So it's not like going to be, me taking some notes from the book and discussing them in like predetermined matter. It's just going to be things that are important, I think, and mostly important for the future story of Warhammer, and what this book and the main things that happen into it, Jesus, in it, are going to affect the whole story going forward. So that is what I'm gonna be focusing on, and Emperor and Guilliman, because yeah, that's the bigger deal here, like the biggest of deals, basically. Hi to everybody in the chat, guys. So, woo! So, dear Ivy, Mojo, Jojo, dear Clayton, what you guys are talking about? I gotta check, but after, oh, Ferris, hi to you, Dark, hi to you. After I finish, with my review. Now, I did make some like notes. I mean, I, mark the parts of the book that were interesting. Not every part, some parts. So I'm gonna use that to remember some of the things that uh, are important to talk about. But first, like a general overview of the book, basically, guys. So once again, this is spoilery, very spoilery. Oh, hi to Imperator Rex, guys, you too. Yeah, guys, so I have to keep this tight as possible because it is a stream and I want to make it as a video. So whatever we have to discuss, we're going to discuss it after, I'm done with everything. And of course, do not lose my thought, because it's not a small book. I mean, all those novels are like 13 hours. 13 hours are so long. Anyway, so guys, basically, we pick the story. The story takes off. Yeah, I mean, Guilliman, Ultrama, what is happening between him and Mortarion, what's happening with Mortarion, and well, I mean, that is just the gist of it. Of course, there's some of the other guys, the other famous guys, like Sicarius, Mr. Sicarius, who I didn't found very annoying, like in the TTS series. You know how annoying he is him there. Sorry. So yeah, he's hilarious how he's presented there. But yeah, he's also here, which was a very good, at least, surprise to be. Anyway, I don't want to get very like deviate from the main important things. So overall, is this book or a novel, let's say, of 40k good or not? For me, is in the middle, because there was a lot of fluff into the story. So it wasn't all perfect, all shining stars and epicness. I mean, there was a lot of epicness at the end, like amazing, but in between all of that, there was a lot of fluff. So let's put it this way: every part that included Gilliman was very interesting, because obviously he is Gilliman and he is a Primarch, and he has to, I mean, whatever he speaks is just interesting. His relationships with the Eldari, that that guy that knows stuff, let's say, that was pretty cool to see. And for me, especially, because I was always thinking when I was first getting into 40k, okay, why are not humans joining forces with the Eldari, or at least some of them, because they have some kind of a wisdom, and they're not uh you know well, dumb, or they are not like unreasonable. They are very arrogant, so that's kind of the problem. But they also try to help. I mean, at least some of them, because they also don't want chaos. So wouldn't be a good idea to join forces with them. And well, I guess this happened to some capacity here. So, okay. So we have this story about a demon, and this demon is questioned, and he doesn't want to say anything. And he's a demon by Zinch, which was interesting. That he's not like demon by Nergle. I mean, from Nergle, but he's Zinch. Well, he ends up saying stuff, and then, well, I mean, that was the whole interesting. I mean, the whole conversation with that demon was very interesting. It was very repetitive, but I mean, that's understandable because he didn't want to say a lot of things a lot of times, but he was made at the end. And it's always interesting to hear Guilliman what he has to say, how he thinks, talks, and how he uses the Emperor's blade. So that is very interesting. Now, let me see what I recorded here. I mean, the notes that I put.
To think, I believed it all. My lord, asked Maxim, cautious now of Guilliman's rancor.
Okay, let's see what that was about. So that is 2 hours and 7 minutes in the book.
His rancor. Do not worry yourself, Donus, said Guilliman. I merely mean that reason is a faith of its own, with its own traps and heresies. I have not fallen into worship. Lorgar's arguments are persuasive, but are built on several fallacies for all that.
Oh yeah, this was about Logar's book. That was also interesting aspect of the story. Probably, I mean, in this whole book, there's several things that are kind of left unresolved. So they're like breadcrumbs that we maybe are supposed to follow in the next novels. So definitely pay attention to these things.
The Emperor said himself that he was no god, over and over again. You should have seen him when he commanded me to punish Lorgar. His anger was no sham. I cannot see any situation in which he would be happy with the way the Imperium has turned out. Then why show me? Asked Maxim. Why have you burdened me with this secret? Why not Lord Tigorius or another higher mind? You are here. I wish to discuss it now. You are most appropriate, said Guilliman.
Yeah, that was really about the book. Okay. So basically that book, Gilliman was able to preserve it in its original form because it was rewritten. That was like thousands of years ago. So when you imagine how this is relative to our reality, you will think that that's ancient, such an ancient history that even, yeah, it's very hard to,
Reason is...
to assimilate how long that is. Okay, next.
My people define godhood in several ways, but there are two broad categories.
Oh, yeah.
The gods of...
Okay, that was about basically what are the gods in general, different categories of gods, because they were talking about is emperor or is emperor is the emperor a god, is Guilliman even a god? And when somebody believes in, I mean, when massive amounts of people believe in one guy, let's say, he may become a god, uh, because belief is kind of empowering. And then the gods are divided between those categories, some that are independent of themselves and they don't require worship, like the chaos gods are self-sustaining, but worship is still something that makes them more powerful. And maybe, just maybe, the emperor is this kind of a god where he gets more powerful if people believe in him. And same would apply to Gilliman now that he is, well, basically, like, I mean, he's replacing the emperor, basically. Okay, let's hear it.
The gods of the other sea, who are reflections of what you call the Imperium, and the gods of the Imperium itself, who you know as the Catan, though there are other, more ancient, and even more terrible things than they. The gods of the Imperium are an essential part of its fabric.
Okay, that's interesting about the Catan, that there's something that's even worse than them and more ancient, so you have to put a pin in that. I mean, more ancient than the Catan and even worse.
Its fabric. They are able to influence its structure, such is their intimate connection to it. But they are bound nevertheless by the laws of this reality. The gods of the warp are more ephemeral and more diverse in type. Many are mere concentrations of feeling. Some were once mortals themselves, before the belief of others changed them. The gods of my ancestors were of both.
Who the heck were mortals first? I mean, that's so interesting. Are we getting like additional substance to their origin and overall lore? That's interesting.
Were of both sorts, I believe, though this is not the only philosophy propounded by my kind, and I have heard many heated debates on the subject. It is impossible to say now, for our gods were slain when we fell, and even if they could be asked, they would not know the truth of it, for the truth would change anyway, as it must, according to the beliefs of those who had faith in them. Yet another kind are agglomerations of souls of those who were once living, or so say the Anari, whose supposed deity Ined was unleashed by the breaking of Biel-Tan. But who in truth can say? One, two, all or more of these things can be true at one moment, and may change at another. There are gods that eat gods, gods that are eternal, gods that were, but now never were, and gods that come into being only to have existed for all time. The origins of gods are therefore impossible to catalogue.
Okay. Gods that were but never were. I'm personally interested in the Anari, the Eldar gods. They sound very interesting, so I also have to put a pin in that and find out more about them.
Catalogue. They have no histories but the histories people impose upon them. I would agree with your sorcerer here, to an extent. Puissance is the defining aspect of them. A grave expression crossed his face. Faith is another, though this does not apply to all. Some beings do not require faith, but falsehood is not intrinsic to them all. Explain, said Guilliman. The Catan, as far as our legends attest, were essential components of creation, hungry, evil to mortal eyes, but part of it. They require no belief to live, in the same way the suns they devoured require no observer to be. Nor do the great four gods of chaos, who have become so all-powerful they are, in essence, self-sustaining, though the faith of their followers makes them stronger. Nor does the great devourer, the mind of the Tyranids, a being that is generated by the unthinking actions of its physical component parts, and that is perhaps greater than all the rest. Is that a god?
Perhaps greater than all the rest. So, I mean, the way that those novels are written, it's very purposely not defined like black and white. It's just not. And that is totally normal because, they have to change some things if they want to. And defining them will not be very realistic because how will they know they're mortals? I mean, they live for thousands of years. Maybe they will know a lot, like, well, apparently this guy does, but that doesn't mean that he knows everything and that he can grasp the nature of the gods and how are they, I mean, how they express their existence and how that is relative to the Imperium, how their power compares to other gods and all those things. So it's very, I mean, it's not very defined, but still, this gives us a yeah a substantial look, upon all the gods. So I think there was a little bit more that was interesting.
God? Some of our philosophers argue so. Others vehemently disagree. But for other gods, lesser gods, faith is vital. Without faith, they collapse into formlessness, becoming non-sentient vortices of emotion. Unstable, they die. But if the people of the Imperium ceased to believe in the Emperor, he would not vanish, said Guilliman. He has a physical presence even now. He sits upon the throne. By that measure, he is not a god. How can you be so sure, simply because he existed before he took to his throne? You base your supposition on the idea that he was actually a man to begin with, and that he did not lie. You also suppose that what sits upon the golden throne still has a mortal life, and would persist should his worship cease, said Natase. Did I not say there are gods who were once mortals? These beings become focal points for belief, and belief begets faith, as the pure gods of the warp do, those that are consciousnesses which emerge from the other sea. The difference is for gods who were something before they were gods. Guilliman raised an eyebrow.
Gilliman will need to process this, but Natasha has a point here. So yeah, all of that opens up a whole nother, ways of thinking, basically, for us too. Um, because yeah, if you assume that the emperor was initially not a god, but then he became a god, it's not sure that that is actually the case, and it's not sure that it isn't the case. So, uh, I think that that's gonna be more defined in the future. But then we get to, of course, what happened in the end of the book, which we're gonna get to. But yeah, let's listen a bit more.
Hypothetically speaking, said Natase smoothly, not assuming that is what happened to your father. In cases like that, there is an existing being to mold. Faith hangs from them, change.
Oh yeah, before I forget, he said something very important here. So basically, he said that the chaos gods are now self-sustaining. So the previous theory that I discussed with some of you guys, basically, if humanity is destroyed, chaos will be destroyed, because there will be no one feeding them. Maybe that's invalid anymore. Because yeah, I mean, if they're really that powerful, they don't need people. I mean, it's kind of strange how are they you know self-sustaining, where their whole nature is basically emotion and concentration of emotion, and that becomes sentient at some point, and that becomes the manifestation of those emotions, and that becomes an entity, quote unquote, a god compared to humans. How Dan Embert, damn it, yeah, how he said that they're not gods compared to, I mean, in general, but they are gods compared to us. They're not gods. So that's what he said. And this is not exactly going against what he said, because Natase also says, like, what defines gods in general. Well, they're defined by their power, but there are different kinds. I mean, you can be a bit lost here, but yeah, it's it's interesting. If they're not anymore in any way, shape, or form dependent on human existence, that's kind of a bummer for us, like a big one. And then what is gonna happen with that? Damn it! With the prophecy that was related to the two primarchs. Damn it! I can't believe that I'm missing names right now. Ah, the prophecy. Damn it! I talked about this so many times, and it just slipped in my head. Okay, to Alpharius and Omegon, that prophecy. Cabal, yeah, the Cabal told them what's gonna happen if the Emperor wins, and if Horus wins. So then how is that prophecy then relevant? Because it says that if uh, Jesus Christ. Yeah, I have a feeling like somebody is in my head and tries to delete my thoughts right now. That's how it feels, but I'm really tired, guys. Anyway, so that Horus, if Horus wins, because he's gonna destroy humanity if he wins, then chaos will be defeated. So that's why some of the Primarchs, I mean, Alpharis and Omegon themselves, they saw that as a very good argument to turn against the Emperor, because they wanted to destroy chaos, and the Cabal explained how chaos is the worst thing ever. So they were like, well, it's better for the Emperor to go then, if he's going to lead us to total destruction and chaos will triumph. So they're like, okay, we're going to support Horus, and Horus is going to go and destroy the whole humanity when he realizes what he's actually done eventually. And in his rage, he's just gonna take it out on humanity, but that is going to lead to the destruction of chaos. Now, this seems like this is not the case if you listen to Natasha here. So it's kind of confusing. And of course, that novel, with the Witches Legion, uh, that is all about the Alpha Legion and what happened there. That is like a lot of years ago now, I think 2000 and I'm not sure 13 whatever, because I'm getting through them now. So that's why some of the things are easier to connect for me. But those are like good questions, guys. I see you. I see you there in the comments. I'm gonna get to you, as I said. Okay, let's see.
From them, changes them, elevates them, if that is a correct word. Natase smiled. In portals, these beings become focal points for belief, and belief begets faith, as the pure gods of the warp do, those that are consciousnesses which emerge from the other sea. The difference is for gods who were something before they were gods. Guilliman raised an eyebrow. Hypothetically speaking, said Natase smoothly, not assuming that is what happened to your father. In cases like that, there is an existing being to mold. Faith hangs from them, changes them, elevates them, if that is a correct word. Natase smiled his thin, cruel smile. We come to an unpalatable truth. To many of your people, Primarch, son of the Emperor, you are a god, because they believe in their billions. Does that not make it true? A status I deny, said Guilliman icily. I am no god. Deny it all you will, Natase insisted. Where you go, victory follows. Your presence inspires your people. In this age of storms, the very warp calms at your approach.
Yeah, that is interesting. It was mentioned several times that when Guilliman is around, the warp does calm, so he has some kind of a effect on it, although he doesn't have psychic powers. So, and he also mentions that. I mean, he's like, "Well, I don't have psychic powers," and Natas is like, "Oh, but that doesn't mean that you're not a god." I don't think that he is yet a god, but he's definitely becoming the strongest Primarch out of them all in general. I mean, I think that he already did become that, especially when you know that some of them are not even here. I mean, we don't know where they are. Some are dead, and so on. So he is the only one that is there, and he's active, and he is obviously very, very strong. Which, once again, at the end, we're gonna see about that.
At your approach. How long is it until the first miracle is proclaimed in your name? And when that occurs, how will you be able to say that you are not responsible for it? The incident on Parmenio with the girl, the way her power freed you from the grip of the enemy, drove back demons, actions already being ascribed to your maker. Natase paused. But if divine, was it truly him? Are you saying that was me? I'm asking you to consider it. I have no psychic gift, said Guilliman.
Here's that part.
It does not matter, said Natase. We are talking here not of sorcery or what you refer to as psychic power, but of faith. Faith is the most powerful force in this galaxy. It requires no proof to convince. It grants conviction to those who believe. It brings hope to the hopeless, and where it flourishes, reality changes.
Yeah, that's a valid point, but I don't think that was him. That's probably something from the Emperor, which is also, another thing that is appearing very often in the story, especially with that priest Matthew. There's a priest that he believes in the Emperor. He says that he saw him, that he experienced him in multiple occasions, other people too, and he delivered them from evil, basically, literally. And Gilliman doesn't believe him. But it's apparently true because miracles did happen here around Matthew a lot, and then at the end of the book with Guilliman. Now, I just glimpsed at the comments what you said, Dark, but you cannot say that Vulcan is the strongest because he's not here. So, we are talking about who is here. Like I did say that, who is here. We cannot account for the other Primarchs because they're not here. So if they're here, let them fight and see who is the strongest. But if you read the book, you see how Guilliman is now more important than freaking ever. Not only because he is the, well, like the emperor's regent, yes, you know, but because the emperor himself seems to be placing all of his faith into him, and there is not really any indication that there's other Primarchs just walking around somewhere else. So at least for now, I mean, I know that there's rumors that some other Primarchs are lurking here and there, but those are literally like rumors that maybe, just maybe, some are gonna pop from somewhere. I'm personally hoping for somehow Sanguinius is going to be resurrected. I mean, I love to Vulcan to return too, and Limon Russ, and Jadakai Khan, yes. So that's great, but they do have to return in order for us to have any idea who is more powerful. Not that it really matters. I mean, that's not the point of the story, really. I mean, the point is a lot of other things that are a lot more interesting and mysterious than who is like the freaking strongest. So, I mean, okay, let's continue a bit.
A single mind connected strongly to the warp can bend the laws of our universe, but a billion minds, a trillion minds, all believing the same thing. It matters little if they are psychers or not. The influence of so many souls has a profound effect. My kind birthed a god. Perhaps now it is your turn. Faith is your race's greatest power. It is also the greatest peril to us all. It is the faith of every human being that molds reality. Psychic power washes through our existence, heightening everything. It is their despair that threatens us. You have said to me before, Roboute Guilliman, that you will save my people, yet it is your people who are damning us all. They damn you too. For all your will, how can your single soul stand against the collected belief of your species? You brought us here to ask if the Emperor is a god, for that is where this conversation is going. But the questions you should be asking yourself are, am I a god? And if I am a god, am I free? That is not what I wish to know, said Guilliman, for my status is in no doubt in my eyes. You should consider it, nevertheless, said Natase. You cannot entertain this idea, my lord, said Maxim. Guilliman frowned. It is your belief that the Emperor is a god, then? My belief is unimportant in the balance of belief, said Natase. It is reflected proportionally in what you call the Imperium. This is what I am trying to convey to you. How do you perceive the Emperor when you look into the warp? I see no god or man. I see the great light of your beacon. From it comes pain and suffering, said Natase, uneasy for once. Who can tell if what I see in the light is true? Our law tells us your master ever was chameleonic. Maybe he is truly dead. Perhaps if you turned off your machines, then the light would die. It is impossible to say. Every thread of the skein that leads to him is burned to nothing. His path cannot be predicted. He cannot be looked upon directly. Some of my kind maintain that he is the great break on your species, yet its only shield, and that he is the poison to the galaxy that might save us all, that he is not one, but broken, fractured, and properly healed, and with his power marshaled again, could outmatch the great gods themselves. Others say he is nothing, that the light that burns so painfully over Terra is but an echo of a luminous being long gone. We must judge his worth to our species by inference alone. Maxim, he is a light, my lord, that is too bright to look at, as Natase avers. He is a roaring beacon. He is a pillar of souls. His presence burns the spirit. He is singular, and obvious, yet too intense to perceive. On the few occasions I have dared, turned my witch sight near him, I too have felt his pain. It scarred me, but I believe he is there. I have felt his regard on me. This is not a common action among the Space Marine librarians, said Guilliman. As I understand it, no. All of us are trained to find the beacon, for we must occasionally serve as navigators when the chapter mutants fail. But his light is too much for us to gaze upon for long. Few dare to look closely. I have. I have heard Natase's opinion on this matter. But I ask you, Donus Maxim, to set aside your chapter beliefs and tell me, is the Emperor a god? Donus shook his head and shrugged. He looked perplexed, as if he could not understand the question. He is the Emperor, my lord. Guilliman looked to the book. Lorgar was wrong about our creator. He was no god when I knew him. But now, his voice faltered. If he were truly a god, whatever we take that word to mean, what does it mean for our strategy? I cannot allow my own convictions to get in the way of truth, for only...
Okay. That was the meat of this type of a conversation, so a lot of things to unpack here, you can say. So basically, for one hand, you have Natase and his Eldar views. And yeah, the Emperor is either here nor there. I mean, he's either nothing or a lot of things. And, you know, from the Grey Knight's point of view, he is very bright and he's still there. He's still something. So, what do I make of this? Well, I do think that it's going to be different for the Eldari, as much as they are very powerful psychers and all those things. They are not meant to perceive the Emperor in the first place because they are not, human beings. So there's that. And I do think that the Emperor's own creations are much more qualified to perceive the Emperor in a way that is relevant to them. So, judging by what we know about the Emperor from the history, I do think that that's kind of the most close to the truth. So whatever is relevant to the Grey Knights and to whoever from human origin or parts, his sons, whatever, that they can perceive him, they're gonna perceive him as the closest way possible to what the Emperor is intending or what he can, make himself to. In order to, as an image. And the Eldari they're just not there. I do think also that the Emperor is something very different than the Chaos Gods. That is, like, for sure. I did talk about how they are similar, but he is different because although they might work in similar ways, they are different in like inner nature. They're like the opposites of each other in a way. And there were no such being before the Emperor that embodied so many things. And yeah, that is why he's so unique. Because he is just a lot of things. How we're going to see, a bit later. So that is one thing. Now, okay, let's hit a pause here and see what you have to say, because the comments are just too many, and then I'm gonna get back to the book and maybe just go to the end, because the meat of things are really just a few things, and the rest of the book is pretty much fluff. And yeah, some funny moments with the nergle storyline, but it's really not that important. And there are so many disgusting depictions in this book. Like, I shouldn't have listened to it when I meal prep, because it was horrible to listen. Okay, that is just, yeah, not very important. Of course, that then, when you have stories about all the nergle things, it's gonna be very very disgusting. So yeah, it's just like a given. Okay, so hi to all the new guys in the chat. Wow. Okay. I'm trying to get. Yeah, voice acting is amazing. I just want to say that that's a good point. I mean, in every audiobook that you're going to listen to from 40K, they're just absolutely awesome. I cannot say, I mean, enough good things about the voice acting. And you kind of know, I mean, one person is reading all of that, but he's very good to change his voice to fit the different characters. He's just amazing. Okay, trying to see what you're talking about real quick. He might as well be King Arthur, Michael. And hi to you. Uh, well, gods are definitely not mortals. You should not take this. From all of this, you should definitely not take that as a conclusion because it's just not the case. And if gods are mortals, they're not gods. No, I mean, they cannot fit into the description of a god if they're mortal, just by default, you know? Yeah, as Natasha explained, some gods can be mortal from, I mean, from the very beginning. How maybe, just maybe, is the emperor. Although, is he really immortal? I mean, if he wasn't killed, basically, he would probably live forever, but in the mortal body. So the mortal body, the physical body, is what makes him vulnerable. I cannot say this word for some reason. Yeah, thanks, Patrick. But I was trying to figure it out myself because I know that in the minute I check the comments, all of my train of thoughts gonna be almost gone. So I had to finish that one before I can see them. Thanks for the sharing of the server, dear Clyden. Uh, okay, that was very funny, Dark. Kill the humans and the chaos gods will. They would still be around because the aliens would be feeding them. I was always thinking about, also the other races, but it doesn't seem like they're so dependent on them. It's always about humanity, humanity, humanity. Maybe because first we're like in the middle of being savage and being like the Eldar, and that's like maybe the sweet spot of good qualities and bad qualities intertwining. And because humanity is the most spread out humanoids race in the whole galaxy, it seems, and they can be spread even more, especially what Guilliman wanted to do at the end of the book. So there's that, and that's why they're like the primary source for chaos. And the remaining Aldari, they're trying not to feed chaos, and the others that are the dark, the dark guys, they're still working for Slanesh, so they're not really doing anything good anyway. Okay. Oh, when you said Patrick Shatter, I just thought that that theory. I mean, what Natasi said, that maybe the Emperor is in pieces. I think that when all the uh, when the 40K writers get together, they're like, okay, let's now try to think about something cohesive. Let's discuss ideas and let's think this from the ground up. So, what are the possible live bloopers? What are the possibilities of which we can draw so we can write a story about the emperor? What is he? What is his state? Because if you remembered in that Dan Amment interview that I discussed, he also said that this is how they work, which is like close to the mind. I mean, if you want to write the universe, you have to confer between each other, and you have to think about how these things will work. And a lot of that is behind the scenes, and that will never be written. But they're drawing from there from that place, so they can write, and everything to make sense, or hopefully make sense. So when they are not decided what it should be more definitive, they are just throwing ideas, and use that to convey it, I mean, to different characters. So I think that what we heard from Natase is exactly this. He is throwing different ideas, theories, and what they know. I mean, some of the things should be a bit more defined, so some are obviously more defined than others. But as a whole, it's like, well, we're not really sure. Is the emperor a god? Is he so strong? Is he not? Is he, all of those things. So it makes total sense that things are going to be uh, all kinds of different, and they're all going to be, presented to us in some kind of a way, and then we can also think about those things, because if we don't think about those things, I mean, the rest of the story is really Space Marines, Primaris, um, Mr. Kargar, Malius Kargar, damn it, that name. What is he doing? And I mean, it becomes just extremely, how to put this in a nicer way. Like, yeah, a filler, and a lot of bureaucracy and official stuff, which is important for the world building, but obviously that's not interesting compared to what is really happening. So we all know how the Space Marines communicate between each other and all those things. So they do things that we kind of expect them to do. So that's not the best thing. The best thing is what is really like the mystery here, of course. Anyway, I digress. So, okay, let me finish with the comments as fast as I can. And when it comes to the other Primarchs, I really hope that some of them return. That's gonna be amazing if they return. That's just on the side note. Yeah, I know that the Jagatai is probably somewhere in the warp. Not the warp, the webway, which was not stable now, apparently, according to this book. I don't know if it's mentioned in some of the other books, but it's not stable. So you can just go through it. Chaos rules that too now. So that's also a bit confusing to me if the Emperor wanted to create a webway, easily for humanity to travel, not through the warp, so it could be protected by, I mean, from chaos. Then how is the webway now, infected with chaos? Maybe that was really possible from the start, but it wasn't a fact when the Emperor worked on the project. Maybe he would secure it to be safe, like, who knows? But that's like in the beginning of the book when they talk about the webway. AJ, hi to you. I mean, hi to everybody, guys. Don't care, too. Okay, I kind of caught on now. Well, as far as I studied, I mean, about the corn, zinch, nergle, and so on, you can't really say if the humans made them, because I mean, that's actually should not be true, because I mean, not only for what Natas has said, because he said that maybe now is the time for humanity to make a god. That means that this is going to be the first time that humanity makes a god. You really have to listen to every word that is being said, especially when it comes to the main freaking topics of Warhammer 40k, those things, the lore, how everything works and why it works. That's like the most important thing. So he said exactly that maybe, just maybe, now is the time where humanity is going to make a god, which is the Emperor, supposedly, not Guilliman, although Guilliman is like secondly. I mean, if he's becoming a god because of the belief of people, that is happening, is still in process, is not a finished process, is in that process. Whereas the Emperor has been building on that for millennials. So he's a lot more forward than Guilliman in that regard. And when you get to, study how the gods were made, it doesn't seem like we made them. It seems like there were like ideas before time, then they were, starting to form a bit uh, with humanity and the other races in the universe. I mean, it was like a collective effort, and in the same time, they existed like beyond that. So it's a bit like this, but it's not definitively like set in stone or like written for sure that they are created by us. And then we have Slanesh, which is created from the Eldari for sure, like for sure, with some contribution from humanity as far as I know, but mostly from the Eldari. So that's why they're taking the credit, this unfortunate credit for the creation of Slanesh. Slaneshi things. It's so funny. Okay, let's check that.
My people define godhood.
Okay, that was the third. Okay, next. What's next?
The Emperor, what had been done to his own kingdom of Ultramar. Then he thought all those methods just. Wherever this ship went now, it would hunt with his brothers as to the morality of their actions.
Ah, this is something else. It's not like the most important thing, but yes, the morality of the actions in general when it comes to war and conquering all of those things, just interesting.
Emperor had withheld was thrown in his face. Extinction, an end. And yet, the worlds burned, the civilizations wiped from existence, the alien species driven to extinction. So much death to achieve peace. And then came the heresy, and the truth of what the Emperor had withheld was thrown in his face. Even during the Crusade, Guilliman had wrestled with his conscience. He had argued with his brothers as to the morality of their actions. He had disagreed with some of their methods. Some of them, like the monster curs, he had openly despised. But when he walked these corridors, dripping with ooze and unnatural decay, these spaces that held an atmosphere against the laws of all physics, when he saw what had been done to the domain of the Emperor, what had been done to his own kingdom of Ultramar, then he thought all those methods just. Wherever this ship went now, it would never be greeted with joy. It would never be seen as a liberator or a bringer of safety. Whether its shadow fell across the worlds of mankind or Xenos, it had nothing to offer but cargoes of pain, corruption, disease, and decay.
Okay, so basically here the point is that even though, Gilliman has some moral dilemmas on the way, when he saw what was done to, well, his people, let's call it that way, he was like, well, all those methods are just. And that's kind of the problem with, well, a lot of, generals, rulers, because they feel human emotions in terms of, revenge, spite, bitterness, all of those things. And even if they know that their methods could be immoral in some way, when they see what is done to their world, they're like, oh, F that. I'm gonna be just as brutal and just as evil, basically. And that is just because it was done to me. So that, that is something that has been discussed in a lot of fictional stories for, modern times, ancient times, whatever. It's a very like repeating theme, like what is good in this case, because if someone doesn't break the circle of violence and hatred and revenge, it's just going to go on and on and on and on and on and on. So apparently, as we know, the universe of 40k is one of those universes where war is just going on and on and on and on and on. When it comes to the Xenos, is, well, some of the races could be reasoned with, some not. So when there could be reason and like alliance and just working together for the better good, greater good, the Tao. Hashtag the Tao, let's say. Let's say. Uh, in those circumstances, I think that both sides should make an effort if they're like reasonable and not evil, like inherently evil. But when it comes to chaos, you have to be smart and think how to defeat it. And if, let's say, if there's a nergle planet, all with nerglings, there's nothing else to do but exterminate us. Like, it's not even a question, because you can't have such values applied uh, to such disgusting beings that do want to conquer everything through their horrible diseases, like a few hundreds of diseases at one time going on, and make you a corpse, living corpse with bugs in your ears and all of that. It's horrible. So when you have something like that, which it threatens the lives of everyone, not just humans, but like the whole universe, you are doing exterminatus. Like, there is no question about it. Exterminatus. Like, right away. Like, you're killing your cockroaches in your bathroom, let's say. That's how it is. But when you have other sentient races, I mean, not that the Nurglings are not sentient, you know what I mean. Other races that just want to develop and, be left alone, basically. And they're not like evil, or they're not going to attack for no reason, let's say. Then maybe, just maybe, yeah, you make an effort, sit down and talk with them. If you cannot go, I mean, if you cannot make a conclusion, some kind of a, agreement that both will be happy with, then I don't know. It's bad. Just a bad outcome if it's still war. The answer, if it's still war. But I mean that this moral dilemma is really applying to that kind of a circumstance where the enemy is actually somebody that you can really talk to, and they can talk to you, and both sides are reasonable enough. But if it's about Nurgle, just bomb everything. And if it's about corn, just bomb everything. And yeah, I mean, exterminate, move on. Yeah, but okay.
And decay. It was catastrophe trapped in a bottle, willfully unleashed. Perhaps nothing should be ruled out in the end. Perhaps no deed was too dark to hold back the horror that chaos brought. There were no ethics, no morals, nothing that could not be sacrificed to preserve the species, to ensure that mankind survived against the odds.
Okay. This is becoming very long. I have one more point here, I think. But before I forget, last thought about the morality, there's one part in the book where space marines are debating whether or not they should kill a bunch of people, normal people, because if they are found from the Nurglings, then they're gonna be corrupted, and yeah, it's just gonna be worse for them. It's basically, it was only a matter of time before they are found. And they tried to speak with those people, but one older guy, he was very excited and he started to shout. And the space marines were debating amongst themselves whether or not they have to now kill them all because they're dead anyway. And that was bad. I mean, that was it was one of those things where, collateral damage, literally. People that are caught in the middle of something, just normal people that really don't deserve this, but they're still getting it because the alternative is even worse. So the space marines started to argue between each other, and they were like, I mean, half of them were like, I'm not doing it. And the others were like, that's an order, you have to do it. So that's just sad. That is just sad. But it's the ugly side of war. It's really bad. Instead of, the space marines to have found some kind of a way to extract them from there, they just decided that there's just no time and they kill them. Now, could have, I mean, they could have maybe pulled this off, but they didn't want to risk it. So in this kind of a situation, unless you are seer and you can see both outcomes, what's gonna happen if they really try to save them, despite the shouting of the guy, and make it like a Christmas for everybody. That's also very sad that he made it like it's Christmas and those are their saviors, and they and then those same saviors kill them. Oh, so yeah. So yeah, unless you're kind of a seer and you know what's gonna happen, you just have to make a decision right there and there. And last thing that I recorded.
The Red Corsairs, and I was their priest. He came to me then and set a boy free from the touch of the warp.
Yeah, this is about the Emperor, and I think Matthew explaining what the Emperor did. So the manifestations of the Emperor. That's also interesting that it seems like the Emperor has been appearing here and there and doing certain amount of miracles and helping some folks. And it seems like that is the Emperor. I mean, it's not like Saint Celestine is appearing. It's really some miracles that look to be directly from the Emperor because he's also appearing as this light being.
Of the warp. Praise be! Shouted the crowd. The mist quivered and shrank back. The train went from a single visible stretch of wall to a huge shape, solid in the fog, and the more solid it became, the more the mist recoiled from it. Perhaps more of you might share your testimony, Matthew asked. Perhaps more of you will reveal what you have seen and help us spread the new truth of the Master of Mankind. Voices called from the crowd. I saw him on Moniath Moti before the last hive fell, called one. He came to me in a dream and told me not to go to the rations booth. The next day, it was gone in fire. The tarot has not lied to me since the rift opened in the sky. I feel his eye upon me. I saw him in the dark, the day that Droll was attacked. He showed me the way to escape, and he guided me to save 100 others. Yes, yes, he is watching us all, Matthew shouted. He is at our side. Is that not so, Colonel Odremeyer? Matthew was looking right at him. Would you care to share your own experience, Colonel? For those who have not heard it, it is a most uplifting tale. Uplifting was not the word that Odremeyer would use. He sweated, despite the chill night. He was used to commanding thousands of troops, dealing with the worst alien horrors and the most powerful men in the galaxy.
Okay. So, yeah, that was interesting how to interpret it when I first heard it, that the Emperor had so many appearances, like helping the little people in a way, which he should do in general, but I kind of don't expect it. And I would assume at least that every time that he is using his powers, he is exerting himself. He is getting 1,000 psychers a day though, so I hope that helps. But yeah, there's a lot to unpack also in the fight between Guilliman and Nergle. So I'm thinking, because this is late, and I mean, it's late enough, and this is long enough, and the book is long enough too, that I'm going to do that in a separate stream so we can really get into the meat of the battle, because there's so many things that kind of happen there. Mostly the book, doesn't focus on the fight all the time. It also I mean, it just goes to the other characters and what they are doing in the meantime, and Nergo's cauldron, and yeah, there's those side plot things that, um, I mean, they're not that important. I don't think they're that important, at least for now. Now, Mortarion was kind of mocked in this from his right hand too, and he is also defiant of Nergal, so that is interesting. He thinks that he is the best guy ever. So, uh, in a way, doesn't he's like, well, I don't need Nergal. I'm not gonna listen to Nergal, but he has to. So that's kind of confusing. I mean, he owes all of his disgusting gifts and new powers to Nergal, but he's still like feeling like he can go without that. I mean, that he can define Nergal all he wants, and that's not really the case. So there's that. But yeah, guys, those are these things. And what is happening in that fight with the Godblight, and the Godblight is this horrible disease that's supposed to kill a god, and even Mortarion. I mean, anyone that is close to it, no matter who it is supposed to be killed by this. So it's the worst disease possible, poison, uh, that you can ever freaking imagine. And it would have destroyed and spread absolutely everywhere. And so um, Guilliman got it. And after that, the interesting things start. But I would say that the battle is described very interestingly. I was imagining it. Jeez. I was imagining, imagining. Okay. The whole time it was visualizing. I was visualizing the battle, and I could almost like paint it. It was pretty interesting and big, and yeah, very very well written. So I couldn't get, just I was so excited about this freaking battle. It's like 2 hours before the book ends, and I was like, what is going to happen? Like 2 hours of the book, we're already here at the battle, but it just prolongs like very much so, a lot. And there's the all the fluffy things. I mean, all the side plots, and they're just focusing way too much on that because the battle otherwise is going to be very brief. I mean, it is brief. There's a certain moment where both Guilliman and Mortarion are like in warp fluctuation. So they use that to write about all the rest and what they're doing. And even, bombarding the planet, like exterminating it, so to prevent this disease to get out. But once again, those are like details that are just for us to imagine the severity of the situation and how this poison is so freaking bad for absolutely everything. But of course, the most important thing was what was happening with Gilliman in this time, and how Nergo was trying to rub it into his face how amazing he is, and to join Nergal. Like, join Nergal, he's amazing. Well, you don't want to listen to Nergal yourself. You like to defy him, but oh, join Nergal, Papa Nergal, he's the best. Yay. Yeah. So, I do think that this is deserving of its own video, its own stream, because it's just extremely awesome. And yeah, I'm gonna put some notes there on the meat of things, and we're going to discuss what it could mean one by one, because really a ton of things were said from the emperor himself, and from Gilliman, and then how he interpreted everything, and this whole experience that Gilliman had while he was injected with the Godblight is super fascinating. If I have to put one word, I would say it is absolutely fascinating. So, yeah, guys, I'm going to do that as soon as I can, probably tomorrow, but I don't want to, promise, because I do have a lot of things to cover tomorrow, to record. So, yeah, but I'm not gonna postpone it so much either. So I hope that I can do it maybe this weekend at the latest, like Sunday maybe. Okay, let me check your comments real quick before I go. Oh yeah, if I have to score the book, I would say that is it's 7 out of 10, and I just have to, in my personal opinion, I just have to take the 3 points because of all the fluff. Just too many things that we didn't need to know. Especially there's a part after the beginning of the book. I mean, like after maybe the second hour, where there's too much time spent on the nurglings and their ridiculous conversations, and it came out extremely cheesy. And yeah, I mean, I was like, Warhammer is cheesy, what? That's how it came out. So I definitely didn't have a good time there. Oh, Michael, okay. Godblight sounds like that metal band. Yes, they do. Mm. Yeah, the book also. Yes, that's a good point, Thor. So yeah, the book that I mean, there was one part where this book was discussed, and that is supposed to be having some huge secret and hypocrisy, some kind of a hypocrisy of Guilliman, which, mm, yeah, something about Sanguinius in the it was like so quickly brushed that um, I didn't get a lot of information, or even if it's like real. I mean, the book was real, but is that information like inside supposed to be there in the first place? I don't know. It's kind of a big mystery. So yeah, like I said, we have to totally keep in mind all of those things that were dropped, like sprinkled in the whole book. There are, just a few of them, but they're very interesting, and they might create a new storyline in the future. I mean, for certain, something is there, and that's why they're mentioned. They're not just like for no reason there. So that's gonna be very fascinating to find out. No. Gilliman is not a heretic. I mean, how can be a heretic? He withstood the Godblight and did not want to betray the Emperor, even when he was in the most unimaginable pain ever in existence. Like, literally, ever. And yeah, how can be a heretic? He's still questioning the Emperor, but he's obviously still doing things for the Emperor. And when he thought that, um, when he thought that the Emperor is dead, when he thought that Terra was lost because he didn't know what was happening, he had to form his own Imperium along with Sanguinius, and they had to do something, whatever they could do. So that was like important course of action. That doesn't mean that he decided for him to be the sole ruler and he went against the emperor. No, absolutely not. He just formed a union so he can be strong and continue forward and save whatever he can save. So that's like smart strategic mind to preserve the Imperium by creating his own Imperium Secundus, basically. But they were cut out, from Terra. They didn't know what was happening. I mean, him and Sanguinius. So I certainly cannot think of Guilliman as a heretic. That's kind of ridiculous. He did what he thought is right, and he is own. I mean, unlike the other brothers, he has the biggest system that he rules. So after the emperor, he's the primarch that has the biggest, literally the biggest part of the universe that he is the sole ruler of. So he is more qualified than the others in many ways, I think. That's why he is here in this position. The writers would not choose him if he wasn't the right guy for this. And he's also put here and established in the book as the savior. I mean, the last son of the emperor, his last hope, his last everything. He is the one that wields the emperor's sword and wields it very, very well. So he's worthy, guys. He is worthy. He's not a heretic. If he was a heretic, I mean, the Emperor will not back him up, and the Emperor does back him up like crazy, okay? But we are going to leave that, of course, for the details, the juicy details of the fight and what was revealed there. So keep an eye out for that, guys. I can be here all night if we just keep on going, but I can't keep on going. I just wanted to address that point. Okay, and said hi to you too. Oh, and there was one chapter when you said, don't care, when you said Space Marines, there's one new chapter of the Ultramarines. I mean, a successor chapter. I couldn't like remember exactly how they were called, but I was interested. I was interested to learn more about them. Okay, guys. Well, I heard that too, Matty. Uh, yes, I can go all night. I mean, I understand that. You know what I mean. Okay. Matty, I just heard that actually before the stream, and I was like, what? Didn't he prove himself time and time and time again being super loyal to the Emperor, even if he is questioning his methods and even his nature? He is still doing what he feels that he should do, and that is protect the Imperium. So to him, his father is not um, I mean, his father is the Imperium, but he's not the Imperium like as a one being. He does sees the Imperium as his realm that he needs to protect. It's not only Ultramar, so he does see his importance and his duty to the Imperium. So not only when it comes to his father, but Imperium as a whole and all that. So he is the total opposite of freaking heretic. Like all the total opposite, especially after he was injected with the Godblight. All the proof that you need is there. Like once again, if he was a heretic, the Emperor just gonna let him die on the spot, but he didn't. So there's that. Yeah, right. Magnus. Mm-mm. Well, I know that Fulgrim killed him the first time, if I'm not mistaken. No, he's not. He's not. He's not. I mean, the all the freaking all the freaking amazingly mind-blowing actually proofs that he's not are overwhelming. So, what are the proofs that he is? They're just none to me because all of his actions until here are totally justified and when you consider the circumstances which are unprecedented, you don't, I mean, you can't just forget that the whole heresy was unthinkable thing to happen firstly, and then all of a sudden everything went to absolute chaos, not I mean, no pun intended, and he was separate from Terra and no contacts, and things looked dire. So he did, I think, as a regent in general, as a guy that rules, he did the best that he could in that situation. Freaking! Heretic heresy. I just like your humor, said. Okay, guys, so it's time to go. It's very late, but I wish you a very good Friday and going towards the weekend. I want to say to everybody that are at OnlyFans, I am returning, so making videos tomorrow and doing the physique update. You're gonna get it, like, I mean, you're gonna get everything that I promised until Sunday, so there's that. And yeah, guys, check the links down below if you'd like to support me. And OnlyFans or whenever you wish, but at least at OnlyFans you're getting a tons of content each week, so there's that. Okay, guys, I love this topic. Continue next time with the battle, and I really hope that you enjoyed. Till next time, with me, Gary G. Reviews, guys. Bye bye.